Hey everyone, I'm back. It's been a while since I made a YouTube video. I'm leaving for my trip to Taiwan in less than a week. So this is a quick video I want to do today. I know my Infinity War review, I've been meaning to do it. I will try and get it out at some point later this week. I am just currently busy getting ready for the trip, and I have seen the movie twice now, so I could probably do the review now, no problem, but I want to see it just one more time, just to sort of, again, fully grasp it as I haven't been able to. So today, I'm going to be going over my summer reading list. So yeah, these are all the books that I have in mind to read over the summer, or maybe for the remainder of the year. They're quite big books, that's the problem. So, but I think I'll be able to read about 4 or 5 of them over the summer, depending if I have time off when I'm in Taiwan, like if I have time off then. But I don't want to be reading the entire time, so that's pretty important to me. So this is going to be my summer reading list, or books I hope to read for the rest of the year. So the first book up on my list is Keith Richards' Life. So it's pretty straightforward. If you know anything about Keith Richards, he's one of the lead singers of the Rolling Stones. It's absolutely fantastic. I read the first chapter of the book, and it's literally absolutely wild. It's about them being in rural Alabama, I think, or something, and it's just basically about how they nearly got busted for just having their car loaded up with cocaine. So that kind of shows you the picture of the book, but Keith Richards is clean now as far as I'm concerned in terms of drugs, but it's, again, I really like that era of music, like 1960s rock, so I think this book is going to be really good. Like, on the title of the book, just by time it says it's spellbinding. The San Francisco Chronicle calls it fiercely entertaining, and then Rolling Stone, which is like the go-to rock magazine back then, one of the greatest rock memoirs ever. So I am really looking forward to reading this book. So yeah. So next up on my summer reading list is the Annihilation Trilogy by Jeff Vandermeer. So I've already read the first book in the series, and as you may know, that the first book in the series, Annihilation, is the basis for the Natalie Portman movie, the really weird one. I actually enjoyed it a fair amount, called Annihilation. So, and I'm going to read the last 2 books in the series, and then the last 2 books are called Authority and Acceptance. Basically, sort of the summary of Annihilation for those who don't know it. Let me read the title flap. So it says, Area X has been cut off from the rest of the world for decades, explored only in a series of expeditions dispatched by a secret government agency called the Southern Reach. So far, these expeditions have returned, and when they have returned, with more questions than answers. The first group came back with reports of a pristine, it's like the Garden of Eden landscape, nature having wiped away the last vestiges of human civilization. The second expedition ended in mass suicide, the third in a hail of gunfire as its members turned to one another. The members of the 11th expedition returned to the southern reaches as shadows of their former selves. Within weeks, all had died of cancers. At the beginning of the Southern Reach trilogy, and the first book is the basis for the movie. It's actually, the movie does diverge quite far from the book, but it has sort of the similar spirit and feel to it, and similar characters. They actually, like in the book, the first book, they don't say the name of the characters, like in the movie, and she steals her husband in the movie and in the book, so I'm happy that they kept that there, and I think what they did with the movie, what Alex Garland did, the director, he did a really good job. I was really happy with it, despite it being diverging away from the source material, because that isn't always a bad thing, as seen with the MCU, like diverging away from the comics. So, at the beginning of the Southern Reach trilogy, we joined the 12th expedition, 4 female scientists from a variety of disciplines preparing to map the terrain, to document the flora and fauna, to collect and analyze samples. But once they cross into Area X, it becomes apparent that the rules of nature as they understand them do not apply, and the goal and parameters of their mission are much different than they have led to believe. Back at headquarters, this is where the second book begins. So back at headquarters, and this is the one I have just started, the Southern Reach itself falls into disarray, its arcane bureaucracy and obsessive secrecy collapsing into paranoia and paralysis, just as Area X begins to reveal its true nature. Area X's hidden history, its present mysteries, its seeming malevolent future, all begin to unfurl, and those tasked with understanding and controlling the region seem doomed to respond with only irrational, desperate measures. Is it possible that one last mission across the border can save them? So, together for the first time in one volume, the 3 celebrated novels of Jeff Vandermeer's Southern Reach trilogy, Annihilation, Authority, and Acceptance tell an exhilarating, disturbingly, and all-embarrassingly suspenseful story of humanity engaging what might be its existential confrontation with nature. It is destined to become a classic of its kind. So, The problem I have started this is that I saw the movie, I read the book before going in firsthand, I had read the plot on Wikipedia for the next two books, so I tried reading the second book, and I really wish I hadn't read the Wikipedia page about it, because it has the plot for both the books, and I had read it, and it kind of spoiled it for me. I found it really hard to get into the second book, but it's been a few months, so I'm going to give the Area X trilogy, or the Southern Reach trilogy, one more try. And I really want it, because I really enjoyed the first book a lot. It's really a divisive sci-fi book, but I really enjoyed it. It reminded me a lot of 2001 meets The Thing. That's what I would say in terms of, like, body horror. The movie gets more to body horror than the book. They go much farther out in the movie than the book, I would say. So yeah, that is the second book I'm going to read this summer. The next book I'm going to read is Sapiens by A Brief History of Humankind by Yuval Noah Harari. He's an Israeli author. So basically, it's pretty straightforward, so I'll just read the back flap of it. Fire gave us power, gossip helped us cooperate, agriculture made us hungry for more, mythology maintained, law and order, money gave us something that we can trust, contradictions created culture, silence made us deadly. This is the thrilling account of our extraordinary history for insignificant apes to rulers of the world. Bold, wide-ranging, and provocative, Sapiens challenges everything we knew and we thought we knew about being human, our beliefs, our actions, our future, and our power. So this book's pretty straightforward. It just talks about the evolution of mankind. I haven't read much of the book yet. I bought this over the Christmas break, and it's just sort of been sitting on my dresser drawer. And basically, it just goes all over. It talks about just how we went from being an animal of no significance to being the dominant species on the planet. So it's more or less just about the history and the evolution of mankind. So it's pretty straightforward. Okay, so the next book on my list it's a classic horror novel. It's Stephen King's second novel, Salem's Lot, if you can see it there. I don't know if you can. So, I've already read 200 pages of this book. I tried reading over the Easter break, but I got pretty scared by it, so I'm like, okay, I'm going to put it down, calm down a bit, and I just haven't come back to it. And, I really like the writing style, though, and I really like how they set up the characters. Like, this book isn't for everyone, I think. It's a really slow setup, but, like, once you get, like, 145, 150 pages in, that's when, like, the bodies start piling up, and a lot of people like that. So, if you don't know anything about the plot of the book, it's about, so this is the back flap of the book again. I don't know why I keep reading this. Ben Mars has returned to Jerusalem's lot in hope that living in an old mansion, along with subject of town lore, will help him cast out all his inner demons and provide inspiration for his new book. But when two young boys venture into the woods and only one comes back alive, mayors begin to realize that there may be something sinister, and that his hometown is under siege by forces of darkness and beyond his control. So if you know anything about the book, it has to do a lot with vampires, and I won't say anything beyond that. It's a really good book. It's a really slow setup, like how Stephen King writes it, and this is only his second novel ever. He writes it really well, and he really helps builds up the world and characters. Like, you gain an understanding of the town, like, you see from different points of view, like, see from a kid's point of view, you hear... It's really interesting. So, another favorite character in this book of mine, it's called Father Callahan. He's like this Catholic priest in the book, and I've read the Dark Tower series by Stephen King, and he shows up later in this. So that's another reason why I bring this book, so to sort of gain more of a knowledge on the background of that character. So basically, it's Stephen King's second novel ever, and it's about vampires, and it's considered one of his best. So yeah, that is... fourth book I'm going to read this summer. The next book I'm going to be reading this summer is yet another Stephen King book. It is considered a classic, probably one of his best after the Dark Tower series. It is The Stand by Stephen King. Okay, so what this book is about is when a man escapes from a biological testing facility, he sets in motion a deadly domino effect, spreading a mutated strain of the flu that will wipe out 99% of humanity within a few weeks. The survivors who remain are scared, bewildered, and in need of a leader. Two emerge, Mother Abigail, the beloved 108-year-old woman who urges them to build a new community in Boulder, Colorado, and Randall Flagg, the nefarious dark man who delights in chaos and violence. So, I bought this book last summer. I have a lot of books sitting in my dresser drawer, and I keep meaning to read them. Like, do you have that thing saying, like, oh, I have tons of books I can read at home, but I don't want to read them, so I'm just going to go and buy a new book. This is basically one of those books that I bought. So basically, I want to finally sit down and read this because it is considered a really, really good book. It's one of Stephen King's best. I'm a fan of him at the moment after reading the Dark Tower series. Movie was very lackluster. The only issue I have with this book is that it's 14,000 pages long, so 1,400 pages long. So I think that's not going to be a challenge for me, but this is a really beloved book by non-Stephen King fans, and it's been a beloved miniseries. I have not watched it yet. I probably will after this. I don't want to spoil myself. I do. Again, I like to look at the plot of books on Wikipedia, but I tend to forget it. And this book goes. I think the Wikipedia page that I read about it and other things that I've read online about this book probably don't go in depth enough with the rest of the book. So I'm really looking forward to it because Stephen King is really good at world building, and from I read the first chapter of the book, and it really helped build like a really good world and really like sort of the scale of the apocalypse. That was the thing I really liked about the Dark Tower series, is that there's a really rich and world for mythology. So I think he's really done that to stand. And again, the reason why I'm reading this book is the character named Randall Flagnet, the Man in Black. He's sort of the Dark Tower's nemesis in the Dark Tower series, so it's another reason why I'm reading it. It's kind of like adjacent to the Dark Tower series. So yeah, that is the fifth book I'm going to be reading this summer. And the next book I'm going to be reading, it is by the same guy who did the book Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind. This is sort of his follow-up to his book. It's called Homo Deus, A Brief History of Tomorrow, and it's basically about the future of humanity. And yeah, so I will read the back flap to inform any of you that want to know. War is obsolete. War is obsolete. You're more likely to commit suicide than be killed by conflict. Famine is disappearing. You're more at risk of obesity than starvation. Death is just a technical problem. Equality is out, but immortality is in. What does our future hold? This is the next stage of evolution. This is Homo Deus. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Homo Deus explores the projects, dreams, and nightmares that will shape the 21st century, from overcoming death to creating artificial life. Sapiens shows us where we come from. Homo Deus shows us where we're going. So Sapiens, the same book by the guy Yuval Noah Harari. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. He's Israeli. But basically, this is sort of a follow-up book that he wrote, came out last year. And his first book was a little divisive, but this book seems to have better reception, as it's not like how he presented human history and sort of his writing style. And like they accuse of him of sensationalism, which I think is okay. And I really want to get into like the history of humanity and like what the future of humanity is going to be like in terms of related to AI, because that's a pretty hot topic right now, I think. And I don't really know much about AI. Like the idea scares me a lot, but what I really hope to do with this book is gain a proper understanding of the future of humanity and where we are possibly going as a species. Okay. So I have 2 books left on my reading list. Well, unless I count comic books that I want to read this summer. So the next book I'm going to read is the last Stephen King book I'm going to be reading for the summer, and it is a collection of short stories called Skeleton Crew. So it's pretty straightforward. It's this collection of a bunch of his short stories, and I can just read the info flap about it. Who could imagine Skeleton Crew? In this brilliant collection of 22 stories, Stephen King takes readers down only paths that he can imagine. A supermarket becomes a last stand where humanity makes its last stand against unholy destruction. A trip to the attic turns into a journey to hell. A woman driver finds a very scary shortcut to paradise. Idyllic lake that could be the home of bottomless evil. And a desert island for the sea's most terrifying struggle for survival. Wait, holy shit, that sounds awesome. So yeah, this book, it's called Skeleton Crew, and it contains what is arguably one of the best Stephen King books or novellas, The Mist, which was turned into that really horrifying movie with that ending. I won't spoil it for you, but it's one of the most grim and depressing endings I've ever seen in a movie. It might actually be the most grim and depressing. So, it's a short story collection by him. It's one of his, I think, 5 of them. He wrote 5 short story collections. So, yeah, I just hope to read this. So, I can pull up the exact short stories in here, like how many they are. The first one, The Mist, and then there be Tigers, The Monkey, Kane Rose Up, Miss Todd's Shortcut, The Jaunt, The Wedding Gig, Paranoid, A Chant, The Raft, Word Processors of the Gods, The Man Who Not Shake Hands, Beach World, The Reaper's Image, Nona for Owen, Survivor Type, Uncle Otto's Truck, Milk Deliveries, Milkman 1, Big Wheels, The Tale of the Laundry Game, Milkman 2, Grandma, Ballad of the Flexible Bullet, The Reach, and Notes. So yeah, this is just a collection of short stories by Stephen King, and it contains one of his most famous books, The Mist. It's more of a novella, I'd say. So yeah, that is the 6th book I want to read this summer. So the final book I want to read for this summer is New York 2040. You can really detect a theme here. I'm a big sci-fi fan. So it is by Stanley Robertson, and basically it's about as the sea levels rose, every street became a canal, every skyscraper an island, and the residents of one apartment. For the residents of one apartment building in Madison Square, however, New York in the year 2140 is far from abandoned city and drowned city. So I really like sci-fi books. Like, I sort of grew up reading. I didn't grow up reading like the major ones. Like, I read Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury. I read The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings. I really want to read Dune, but apparently that's a dreadful book to read, and it's really long, but it's also really good. So I've heard really mixed things about that. But this book seems easy enough to understand, and it's by well-established sci-fi author Stanley Robinson. What I wrote about her online. So. I think this is an interesting book, and it's a possible future for us, like, New York City, 2140, so that is 120 years from now could be, like, Venice. I mean, that wouldn't be the worst, but who knows what that'd be like, right? I mean, that'd actually be kind of cool if New York became like Venice. But it would suck for people living there, but they can move them to skyscrapers. Like, if you look at the front flap of it, it doesn't look that bad. So yeah, this has been my summer reading list. Some other things I really hope to read this summer are there are some comic books that I want to read. As you know, I'm really into comics, so some books I want to read. I don't have all of them here, but I have Doctor Strange the Oath. I want to read Watchmen by Alan Moore. I've read the book many times before, but I haven't read the book in full, and I've seen the movie, so I want to read that. And then there's a bunch of other stuff that I plan on reading. So that is more or less what it comes to in terms of comic books that I want to read this summer. So yeah, guys, this has been my summer reading list. I hope you really enjoy. Again, I'm sorry for the video quality, as I still really need to get a new camera and software to edit on and record on. I have purchased Adobe software, but the computer that I'm doing this on can't afford it, so I'm stuck using crappy online software. But it seems to do the job just well, and that's fine. But besides video quality not being very good, the Infinity War review I really hope to have up by some point before I leave for Taiwan, so I'm looking maybe at Friday. I just want to go see the movie one more time. It's an awesome movie. People have probably seen it 5 or 6 times at this point. Like, it's one of those movies you have to go see it again and again. And it's on pace to gross $2 billion. It had a really big opening in China, so that really helped it. So yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you all next time.